right, everybody. Hope you're having a great evening. Happy Thursday. One more day to go in the week. Hopefully, you guys get some rest coming up on the weekend. Just one more day to go. It's your host, the Sports Moose, and we finally have brought back, I've been saying it forever, the Thunderdome Puckcast is back with the news that the NHL hopes to resume play by late July. So we are so excited for that. We want to go over that, mostly that today, and talk a little bit about what would the Lightning's path to a championship look like exactly. All that and more coming up here on the Thunderdome Puckcast, episode 14. Here for your hockey-loving pleasure. Let's hit that intro. Welcome back once again to the Thunderdome Puckcast, your host, the Sports Moose. This is my solo project, so no Emrod for Lightning Talk. Though he does send his regards. I'm sure we'll have another episode of Balls, Brews, and Bros coming up next week. So hopefully you're here, you're a Lightning or hockey fan. Focus on the Lightning, but we love talking about the teams. We love talking about hockey, and if you're joining us, make sure to hit us up on the chat if you agree or disagree with anything that we say about the new return to play plan for the NHL. Of course, talk about being back and where we hope to take the show moving forward. We'll go into great depths about the NHL resumption to play plan, 24-team playoff and tournament, unprecedented in sports. So we are excited to cover that. So we'll take an early look at what the Lightning's championship path may look like. I know it's neither here nor there. The Lightning weren't playing great hockey back in March. Well, it's all not going to matter, I guess. Everyone's going to be in the same boat as everyone gets ready to play after basically a 4-month layoff with coronavirus. And then we'll close it up talking about a little bit about Doc Talk with Alex Killorn, Killer. New viral star on YouTube and Twitter, and we'll talk a little bit about what he's doing for raising some money for charity. So let's get right at it. Let's talk about being back. We are back, and then of course we have our new studio setup. Got the blue lights, of course, for the Lightning. Got a new background. Still have our information down there, of course. That's the great thing about being back, is I think we rethought our format, and I think we really like the YouTube audience, and we're going to keep it over here. We still love being on all podcasting platforms, so you may not see us so much on YouTube. It's a little bit less restrictive too with using music, and you got to be really careful with all that fun stuff. So Facebook's a little bit more liberal, which I like, so we can just play random songs and clips without copyright infringement or getting strikes or anything like that. And the new setup's pretty cool. Of course, we'll always have our scrolling. We have our topics right below me, and then down in the bottom fifth, we'll have rolling statistics and rolling information that about the Lightning and division standings and whatnot. Of course, with the season coming to an official close, Lightning second in the division with the Boston Bruins winning the President's Trophy. Only team getting to triple digits in points. Also great is, I think the past setup was very focused on me in terms of taking up 80% of the screen. So what's great is we can just kind of rotate back and forth, minimize my face a little bit. I know I have a face for radio. Have the topics right then and there, of course. Big welcome back to all our supporters for Thunderdome Puckcast. Quick reminder, we're going to keep the podcasting platform going, so you're going to still be able to find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. we are recording in simulcast, so we'll basically release the audio from this show into our, for RSS streaming, so it should go to all those podcasting platforms if you like listening to us on the car. I know I have a few family members that do, so we appreciate your support, and we'll have that audio up hopefully by tomorrow of this same show, episode 14 of the Thunderdome Puckcast. YouTube, kind of be a hit or miss. So you'll mostly find us now on Facebook. We're going to do stuff on my personal page for now till we build up the following. Almost at 40 likes for the Sports Heap, which is amazing. So make sure you keep that up. And then eventually we'll start streaming over on the Sports Heap and share that on social media. So again, we're excited to get the show back on the road. We're about a month and a half away from real hockey. Nothing more American than hockey in July, right? Also nothing more American than what I'm drinking right now. Ran out of beer. Tough way to run out of beer on a Thursday night for your show. So kind of had to pull out I wonder if it's distributed everywhere. Is it Rancho La Gloria strawberry margarita, aka basically a 90s wine cooler. But I love it. It's great. Great tasting, refreshing. And it'll get us through the show until we get some beers for the weekend, of course. So happy to be back. Hope everyone has been safe. The world's been flipped upside down since we last saw some hockey. Lightning were basically riding a 2 or 3 game losing streak heading in there. So the stoppage maybe not necessarily the worst in terms of momentum and getting ready for the playoffs. But again, really like that the NHL is taking the right steps here, taking their time. I think they're being really smart about this. And as we get to the NHL resumption of play plan, I think that'll become even more evident. So I know a lot of the big talking heads for hockey are really impressed with the plan. I know I am. A lot of other amateur sports podcasters or followers are really excited for what this could turn into. I mean, we talked about it a little bit on the show with Emrod last week, where what if we love this? What if we love this 2014 format? More revenue for the league, more teams making the playoffs. It's no different than having the little guys play the play-in games, right? Because that's essentially what the format's going to be. What's so wrong about that? The United States really is one of the only places where playoffs is a thing. You go over to Europe, especially when you're looking at soccer over there, and you play your 38 weeks and that's it. Whoever has the most points, that's the winner. Really no chance for anyone who's not spending, other than was it Leicester? One year they won. Basically no chance if you're not spending hundreds of billions of dollars on salary every year to really make a difference in soccer in different countries over in Europe and even in Asia to a degree. So, again, we'll keep this on podcast. We'll keep this here on Facebook. So make sure you are following the Sports Heap for your latest news on our next shows. So let's get right into what the NHL resumption of play plan looks like. We were expecting it. I don't want to say it was surprising. We were expecting it. Last minute announcement by Gary Bettman. I think it was yesterday, right? It was yesterday first came out. Nice PowerPoint presentation, Gary Bettman, by the way. It's amazing how these sports commissioners are all the same. It's just so awkward and weird. I think Roger Goodell is a perfect example when we did the NFL draft. Just kind of a random guy in his basement announcing picks. Randomly decided to sit in his easy chair, started getting hammered off whiskey. Gary Bettman's always been a lightning rod for attention, I guess you could say. But you can't argue with the way he's run the league. He's had to hold steady. It's been 2 lockouts and a lost season over his tenure, but he's I think he's added 6 or 7 teams to the league, and they've been for the most part successful. Don't want to talk about Atlanta or anything like that. Kind of a tough gamble there, but even Phoenix to a degree after this resurgence, still being successful. Hopefully they figure out their stadium situation and bringing back hockey to Winnipeg, and potentially Seattle now in the works as team number 32. So I think the outlook is just great for the NHL, and it hurts. I mean, it hurts when you can't play 2.5, 3 months. That's a lot of lost revenue, and part of me thinks this is a money grab, right? All right, let's in the name of fairness, we're gonna have 24 teams make this playoff, and really, it's just an opportunity for a couple extra games. I mean, let's be honest. I guess the revenue is going to come from TV, right? Because you and me aren't going to be going to the game. No fans allowed. So hopefully some TV revenue coming the NHL's way. And mostly I'm glad that the NHLPA and the owners, represented of course by Gary Bettman, able to get to an agreement. I mean, we're seeing the nightmare that there potentially is going to be for baseball. They are not even on the same wavelength in terms of getting close to a deal. You've seen a lot of anger, from players. I mean, our own Blake Snell out of the Rays, not wanting to take pay cuts and all that sort of stuff. So MLB is in for a really interesting ride, and I think they really have to be careful. I think baseball is already on the decline to a degree, and if you have a situation where NHL is going to have a fun playoff system, the NBA is potentially coming up with a pretty fun tournament as well that could mirror March Madness, and the NFL and college football looks like they are gearing up for a full season, whether they have fans or not. At least the attention is on them, and especially college football is a huge television juggernaut with all of the following on ESPN, the SEC channel, the ACC channel, and all those agreements, and NBC with Notre Dame. Baseball could be in a tough position if they don't figure it out, because they're going to be basically playing for scraps of attention, because they've never had to compete with the NHL before. They've never had to compete with the NBA truly before. I mean, summertime is baseball, right? That's where it's at. All-Star game, home run derby, pennant races start to get a little bit interesting as the NFL kicks off in late August, early September for preseason and rolling into the first few weeks of the NFL. And I think MLB is going to be in trouble if they don't figure this out and they end up not playing, or they end up coming to not a great deal and they're stuck competing with 4 other sports. I mean, so we'll see. So right in front on the topic screen, of course, we've got what the timeline looks like. We're already in phase 1, which has been really a deferment to local authorities and, again, self-isolation. There's been instructions to have players come back if they were abroad, if available. I think there's only been a handful of players still out on most teams out in Europe or in their native country, so they've been instructed to start coming back. And of course, early June, you're looking at teams able to, form groups, small groups, of course, with social distancing, voluntary for on and off ice training. I think now they're allowed in really, really small groups to start mobilizing and getting ready for training. Big date that is being thrown out is July 10th as the date that formal training camps may or may not begin, somewhere around the 10th. What's the 10th this year? Is that a Friday? So maybe Thursday or Friday for training camp to begin on July 10th. Looking about a couple weeks of training camp, getting into playing shape. And then hopefully end of July, first week of August is when you are probably going to see your first play-in games or play-in series for the NHL. So I really like the timing of this. Phase 4, of course, going to 2 hub cities, 1 hub city per conference, which a lot of the ideas out there were 4 for each division, but I like this. We're jumping right into the playoffs. The seeding is going to be cross-divisional, so there's a chance that a team that may not have normally played each other in the first or second round of the playoffs, the way that the playoffs are now, are going to be playing each other. So I like that. So put all the conferences in the same hub. Your hub cities are there down below. Really interesting to have Dallas on there, kind of a southern city. I think they were looking for facilities that had multiple acceptable locker rooms, is my guess. With Chicago, of course, United Center having multiple locker rooms for different sports, making it possible to play 2 or 3 games a day. Pittsburgh, Edmonton. It'd be interesting to see some action in Canada. So I wonder if one hub city will be in Canada and the other in the United States. Not sure who the favorites are, though. Be interesting to have Vancouver and maybe somewhere good out east. Vegas is being considered too, of course. Rumors are Vegas could be the site for the finals. That would be pretty interesting to have Vegas as the neutral ground for the finals. So how it works. Of course, they've already done the seeding by percentage points. They didn't do it by where they were in their own divisions. I like this. Points percentage. Not necessarily wins or anything like that. Top 12 into the playoffs. In the West, basically the whole Central Conference or Central Division made it. Lucky Blackhawks, of course. So your seeds 1 through 4 are going to play a 1-game round robin against each other. Those with the best records are going to end up with that's going to determine seeding. So there's a chance that the seeds might change. Right now in the East, for instance, Boston, Tampa, Washington, and Philly, I think, is a dark horse there. So they'll play each other once, and whoever has the best records, the number 1 seed, and so on and so forth. Then they'll be seeded into the general bracket. 5 through 12 are matched up in each conference. There are some really interesting matchups that we didn't think would happen, especially with a few teams basically bowing out by the time play was suspended. But it's really exciting because it gives a few of those teams a chance they should have had to make a run for the playoffs. So what they're looking at now is once the round robin's done, qualifying round, it's a best of 5 between the 5 and 12s, the 6 and 11s, so on and so forth. So once that's done, that's the play-in round, and now your 16 teams are set. And first and second round, right now they're still determining the length. It's probably going to be 5 games, and then your conference finals and your Stanley Cup final, traditional best of 7. So I like that. No reseeding as well, which I really like. The last few years we've been kind of attuned to these divisional playoffs, so it'd always be a team that from our division just to kind of really make us hate our rivals. But now it's wide open. It could be any team from either of the divisions in your conference, which is exciting. So let's look at the teams that made it, the lucky few, I guess the lucky many in this case, 24 out of the 31 teams making the playoffs. Western Conference, of course, the Blues looking to repeat as your Stanley Cup champions. Avalanche had an absolutely strong year, and that's probably my pick, I would say, to make the finals. Vegas had a strong last few months, surging up, and I think they're leaders in the Pacific. And then Dallas having us kind of like Philly. Dallas has been sneaky good. They've been on and off. When you get good goaltending from Ben Bishop, as us Lightning fans know, anything is possible. And they've got their offense going as well. So I like Dallas. I don't know if I like them to go into the Western Conference Finals per se. I think that's going to be St. Louis and the Avalanche. But you never know. You never know with Dallas. Ben Bishop just has to get hot, and you just don't know. We'll see where the seeding ends up, of course. I think it's going to end up more or less like they have it. I think if we see any change, it's going to be St. Louis and the Avalanche switching 1 and 2. I think Vegas is a solid third. And again, depending on Dallas could overachieve and maybe end up in the third slot. We'll see when the games come up. Then, of course, back on our side, on the Eastern Conference side, no surprise, Boston winning the President's Trophy this year, 100 points. The regular season now is officially over. So they win the President's Trophy and hopefully are subject to the President's Trophy curse. Lightning currently at number 2, Washington right behind them in the 3 spot. And Philly, kind of back and forth with Pittsburgh all year, gets into the 4 slot. So it's official. Lightning have made the playoffs. Woohoo. will be in that first round awaiting our opponent. So these are some really interesting matchups. So on the the second column respectively, you have your 5 seed against the 12, 6 and 11, 7, 10, and 8 and 9. Really, I think far and away the best matchup is going to be Calgary versus Winnipeg. I think that is going to be the matchup of the play-in rounds. Those teams hate each other. It's going to be absolutely magnificent. I cannot wait to see that series. Vancouver, Minnesota could potentially be interesting. Minnesota was playing a little bit strong at the in March. Again, all of this doesn't matter. It's going to be 4 months later. Trends aren't going to matter. It's going to be who wants it. Just start skating, start training, and who's going to want to win the game more. So I can't wait. I really think, actually, that Nashville and Arizona could be an interesting series because just the Coyotes have been up and down all year. They've gotten consistent goaltending, then all of a sudden their goaltending is trashed, and there's some injuries, and I think this could be a sneaky upset series. I would still take the Predators here, but I still think this has a potential for upset alert. And of course, your 5-12. I mean, I don't know. Unless Corey Crawford gets hot, should be a one and done for the Hawks. More of a thanks for making it. Thanks for the revenue dollars, I guess, is really why you're here. Chicago and New York Rangers. Love those big market revenue dollars. Eastern Conference, anytime you give Carey Price a chance, great TV, great sports TV. And this is really why Pittsburgh didn't like this idea. They still voted yes. Only 2 teams voted no, Lightning being one of them, by the way. But they're really concerned about playing Carey Price, and I don't blame them because in a best of 5, you just got to have a hot streak. I mean, it happens all the time in the playoffs where your goalie goes on a 2-game shutout streak, a 3-game shutout streak, or an 8-period shutout streak, and that's all you need to win 3 out of 5. That's it. Could be a total fluke, and we could see the Habs moving on to the first round of the official Stanley Cup playoffs. Still think Pittsburgh wins that one, probably 3-1. I like the Carolina-New York series. New York, kind of the changing the guard. New York, they're getting younger. The King is probably on his last season or 2 in New York, and they've got a pair of young stud goalies ready to take over. I still think this is Carolina's game, mostly because I want to see the bunch of jerks win and keep the Storm Surge traditions going. So, it's Carolina, you got to do the Storm Surge, even if you're on neutral territory, all right? 7-10 for the Islanders and the Panthers. I mean, the smart pick here is New York. They've been playing well, probably have gotten better, more consistent goaltending. Bobrovsky's been a disaster. Disaster is too strong of a word. Has been inconsistent. I think his goals against has been above a 3 for most of the year. And really the only reason the Panthers are anywhere near this, of course, wouldn't have made the playoffs in a normal season, and the reason that they're in the 10 seed anyway is because they're like the second or third highest scoring team in the league. So, you've gotten pretty questionable goaltending from Bobrovsky, and thankfully Florida's offense has been there. I still want to pick the Panthers here because I still want that Lightning-Panthers playoff matchups. Gotta happen. I think the Lightning are going to end up with the 2 seed. So the winner of this series right here would play the Lightning. It's got to be the Florida Panthers. Got to have that first Florida-Tampa playoff series. Then I think the brawl of the Eastern Conference, similar to the Western Conference, it has to be the 8-9 matchup. Which Leafs team is going to show up? Are they going to be pushed around? Babcock's out of there. Ever since he was fired, they have played with a different light under their butts. And you got Columbus, a Tortorella team. Bobrovsky not there anymore, of course, but getting great goaltending from Merzlikins. As of late, he's back from injury. Probably fully recovered by now, right? Most everyone's fully recovered, especially getting into July. So I like that series. That should be a fun one to watch. And I think the seeding's in a very similar. Again, hard to say. Everyone's on a 4-month layoff, but probably Boston at number one. If there's any change, probably the Lightning, the Capitals. Maybe the Lightning drop down to 3, which probably isn't favorable for them because then they end up playing Carolina. Carolina's scrappy. I wouldn't want that matchup first. I'd probably want to take the Panthers on in the first round. So, got to be careful with where we end up. So, let's look at the predictions and the Lightning's path. Well, actually, we got the proposed the tournament right here. Kind of very similar to what we're doing over here, but it'll tell you now, again, no reseeding, which I like. So it's basically NCAA tournament style. If the lower seed wins, you're not automatically playing the 1 seed. It's where you're at in the tournament. So the 1 seed doesn't matter when's the winner of 8 or 9, and it doesn't matter if the 12 seed were to win. You would progress along in your lane or in your bracket. So that's kind of what the playoff field looks like. Of course, credit to Sportsnet for the picture on this one. But now we've got our predictions here. We went through them a little bit. Round by round, of course, I think I'm going to make the assumption that the seeds end up the way that we have there. So the seeds end up Boston 1, Lightning 2, so on and so forth. And same thing on the West. So playing Boston, we want to root for Toronto Maple Leafs because I think that's just a physical series. We won't see Boston until the conference finals, but I don't know if Toronto can beat them, but it's more so let's get those Bruins battered up and hopefully maybe someone like Pittsburgh or Philly takes them out. I think that's going to be a phenomenal series too. If the Penguins can get by the Canadiens, and of course, if Philly ends up in the 4 seed, battle for Pennsylvania is always going to be great for the playoff system. And I'm still rooting for our first battle of Florida in round number 1. I'm picking the Cats over the Islanders, and hopefully the Lightning end up with the 2 seed. So we have our Lightning versus the Panthers. And then another Metro Division matchup. Still think the Hurricanes take care of the Rangers. And grudge match, Washington and those Carolina Hurricanes. On the West, same thing. I'm thinking it's going to be Blues, Avs, Knights, and Stars for your 1 through 4. I think the Oilers take care of business against the Blackhawks. And I'm gonna call a sweep on that one, 3-0. I think Calgary comes out on top on the 8-9 against Winnipeg. Just like in the way they've been playing, they could potentially be a team of destiny, and I would really want to see how they match up against St. Louis Blues. I'm going to take Vancouver over the Wild, and Preds over the Coyotes. If I had to pick upset alert, that would probably be the game, the 6-11. Coyotes, I think, can make some noise, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see in a couple months if that happens. So what ends up happening, I think the Lightning beat the Panthers and end up playing Washington in the second round, which I don't like. I'm sure Boston's rooting for that. Maybe Boston takes care of the Leafs. It's a toss-up for me for Philly, Pittsburgh. It's Ikata hot. Maybe he gets good. Maybe it's Boston, Philly. Boston. Part of me thinks the Lightning will lose the second round here. I mean, Washington. It's so hard to discuss. This is all speculation. I can see the Lightning losing the second round to Washington, but I can see them beating them, and then Lightning Bruins for the conference finals. I'm gonna say Avalanche Blues on the other side. If anyone was, maybe the Oilers make some noise. I'm gonna call the Oilers over the Stars. So I think Oilers Blues would be a really good, interesting series to see in round 2. I think the Blues take care of business there. So Blues Avs. And if I think the Lightning, it's going to be Lightning Avalanche, and they had some great games earlier in the season for a potential preview of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Lightning Avalanche is my official call for the Lightning's path to the championship. So we talked about that. Let's close out the show. Kind of a fun little topic, and it's a shame I couldn't play any video of it. A new video, almost like perfect timing, coming out today for one of our very own Lightning players, killer Alex Killorn. Hopefully you follow him on Twitter. He's been dropping videos all summer with concept he calls Dock Talk. So basically he goes around Tampa Bay in his jet ski. He's been visiting Lightning players off their docks. He's driven by Tom Brady / Derek Jeter's old mansion just to show off. And they had a phenomenal video drop today, basically with Boys Are Back in Town as the background song. And him rounding up all the Lightning guys that I guess live off of the Tampa Bay. they're basically in a jet ski gang going down the bay. So it's really an amazing 2.5 minutes. Make sure you look for that on Twitter. Might be on YouTube. I know he's done 3 Dock Talk series. Great interviews with some former Lightning players. I think Dock Talk 2 or 3 has Callahan, one of my favorite Lightning players. And they had Girardi, of course, who just recently retired. But most importantly, we got to hear from the big cat himself, Andrei Vasilevsky, making an appearance on Dock Talk. Hilarious guy, stylish glasses, so make sure check out Vasi. And then, of course, I think Sergey gets on there. Sergachev talks about his Bengal cat and doing yoga with his girlfriend with a cat. So pretty funny story there. I think they run into... who else did they run into? It's a non-Lightning player. Oh, KK from the Rays. Kiermaier makes an appearance. And Cameron Brate, who also went to Harvard, just like Alex Killorn. So again, been really entertaining. And of course, they're selling Dock Talk with killer shirts, $30 a pop. And that all goes to charity, the charity of Killer's Choice, I believe. So make sure you get those Dock Talk shirts. I don't know if I can order one yet. I'm just so happy to have on the Lightning sweater. For the meantime, we'll get ready for the summer hockey. It's amazing. I can't wait. Hope everyone's excited for that. I think that brings us to an end of this episode of the Thunderdome Puckcast. Thank you so much for listening to us. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Got my handle down below at @moose_TSH. Pretty active on Twitter, retweeting GIFs, random pictures of my dog, all that fun stuff. And make sure to follow Emrod. I think you've seen his Twitter handle down below at Emrod_TSH. And of course, TSH is for the Sports Heap, our mother organization. You can find us here on Facebook Live and Facebook. Make sure to like us on Facebook, the Sports Heap. Just give us a quick search. And we're moving a lot of our content over there. YouTube will still exist if you want to see our archive shows. But I think we're going to really stick with Facebook for now. Again, I like the platform a little bit better and a little bit more exposure. So we appreciate guys as you guys have been dropping in and watching. And then, of course, podcast audio should drop by tomorrow for episode 14. That'll be available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. All you got to do is search for Thunderdome Puckcast. Look for the logo that looks just like that below me, and you will be able to find us and listen to us on the go. That's been it for the Thunderdome Puckcast. We'll be back the next few weeks. Of course, be on the lookout for our other shows, probably due to drop another episode of the Bucking Hangover, our Buccaneers podcast, as well as just our fun random talk show, Balls, Brews, and Bros with Emrod as well. And of course, I've been doing some gaming, mostly on Twitch, and then I'll drop some videos here on Facebook Live as well off of the Sports Heap. Follow me on Twitch at the Sports Moose does gaming. Very long handle. Wasn't thinking when I first created it. Have to wait 2 months to change it to just the Sports Moose. So bear with me. The Sports Moose does gaming. Play all sorts of games. Mostly right now, Sea of Thieves. If you're interested in Sea of Thieves, do some Friday Night Risk with some of my friends from Notre Dame, as well as a really great game called The Outer Worlds. Really enjoying. It's an RPG. Lots of fun. What else have we been playing? I hop on Forza 4 here and there. Actually, Xbox just dropping, or the Ultimate package that we have with Xbox, just indicating that City Skyline is now free to play. I've been wanting to play a city management game for a long time. Epic memories of SimCity 2000 coming to mind, but can't wait to see what these new gaming PCs can do in terms of graphics and really truly building a city. All right. Have a great weekend. Make sure to connect with us on Twitter again at Moose_TSH. It's been the Sports Moose with Thunderdome Puckcast. We will see you next time here on Facebook Live. Take care.